This is an extremely important update. This coming Monday, August 5th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, join field expert Tay Queen and me on her radio show, Conversations with the Queen, for a special Vision Class show. This is better than any office hour because you can call in directly and speak to us. The link and call-in number are listed in the description box below. I am exactly where I need to be in this moment. I am in complete harmony with those around me who share this moment with me. I contribute only truth and love to those around me. I am being used as a beacon of light to transmit God's divine purpose to others. I will bring peace to this moment. Now let there be truth, love, light, and peace. When one meanders about her tedious life in oblivion, she is likened to being asleep. Yet, there are moments in such a life that are requisite in her awakening. These moments are also known as visions, and if one can maintain vigilance during these moments, one may begin to unravel the tightly woven thread of her life's purpose. And of course, as with anything in life, when one first awakens to a new beginning, she must strengthen her muscles of awareness. This gets easier with time, and when one strengthens a certain muscle, it is nearly impossible for the other muscles to be neglected.
Welcome to Vision Class.
The web-based open classroom that helps its students interconnect to achieve their visions and find their life's greater purpose. Students can join Vision Class by simply logging onto YouTube and subscribing to the Vision Class channel. For a duration of 12 weeks, Vision Class will air a 1-hour lecture every Friday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, beginning Friday, June 7th, 2013.
So to stay abreast of what's going on in class and to always be aware, just remember you just want to go to our Facebook or Google Plus pages and you want to download the syllabus. Or you can download the syllabus directly by clicking on the link below. We have had some technical difficulties with downloading the syllabus, especially from Android phones. But in which case, if you're having any difficulties, never hesitate to email me at sugarfreemail@rocketmail.com, where I will answer questions and I will also be available to submit to you the syllabus if you are having issues with downloading it.
There are 6 class texts you will need for Vision Class. Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain, Write It Down, Make It Happen by Henriette Ann Clouser, The Isaiah Effect by Greg Braden or A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, The Spontaneous Healing of Belief by Greg Braden, and The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
The whole purpose of Vision Class is to interconnect, is to share, is to gain everyone's insight and testimonials such that your own vision is fueled. We want you not only to find your visions in life, but we want to use those visions as points on a map to help you figure out your life purpose, your life path.
Vision Class is updated constantly with information and changes that are vital to each student's success, so it is important that students remain vigilant of these updates on their own. By accessing our Facebook and Google Plus sites, students can find everything from the course syllabus to free downloadable texts by the mere click of a button. To access all Vision Class links for Facebook, simply click on the Notes section. To access all Vision Class links for Google Plus, simply click on the About tab at the top of the page and scroll down to the Links section. Students can also access the Vision Class calendar from one of the aforementioned sections, which allows you a quick glance of all dates, times, and assignments for Vision Class.
For your daily assignments, you'll need 3 notebooks to get started.
A notebook of any size to be utilized as a journal, labeled as the Legacy Book. A small notebook that is portable to carry with you at all times, labeled as the Intention Book. And a medium to large size notebook to help you take notes and complete class assignments, labeled as the Vision Book. You will also need a presentation board of any kind, which you will update throughout class with inspirations and visions you hope to achieve in your life, newly titled the Envision Board.
This class is not, I will say it a million times. If you've never heard me say it once, you're going to hear me say it now. This class is not about what you're able to accomplish, okay? It is about what you do with your time. So it's not just, hey, I'm able to cover all the text material, Shira, now what? Because you can read all these books all day long and never become aware of your reality. No, this class is about how you connect to yourself, how you connect to your creator. How do you do that? By what you put into the class. This is about how to interconnect with your fellow students and find a way that works for you, such that this becomes a habit. And once this way of life becomes a habit for you, you will notice how easy it is to incorporate the elements of this class into your life.
Today in Vision Class, we will discuss all of the tools for guiding your vision with meditation and recovering our sense of strength. Today's reading comes from The Artist's Way, Week 8, pages 129 through 149, though we will also focus on the Isaiah Effect, chapters 6 through 9. Today's assignment is to continue morning pages, artist state, and jotting dreams and visions in your vision book. Continue printing photos and working on your Envision board. Focus on readings. Find 5 minutes a day to begin praying and meditating, and report your results on Facebook and Google+.
All right, everybody, so welcome to week 8 of Vision Class. My name is Shira. If you don't already know, I am teaching this class. And this week we're talking about meditation. Now, this week is a continuation of last week's lecture about prayer. The reason that we are continuing last week's lecture about prayer is because we did not delve into the specifics of how to pray. I gave you an introduction, but of course the information in this class is so lofty that sometimes I just do not have the wherewithal in one lecture to cover everything, even if it is the topic of the lecture. Sometimes we have to continue it in future lectures. So today we're going to talk about prayer and meditation. So prayer is asking, right? It is sending outward. And then meditation is receiving or listening. So keep that in mind as we talk about prayer and meditation. I will moreover be doing the prayer aspect of this lecture, and Tay Queen will be doing the meditation aspect of this lecture, although of course I will tie everything in together. I want you to keep in mind something that you can do as an aid to yourself is whenever you hear me speak about prayer, you automatically want to start thinking about meditation. Even if I'm not talking about meditation, if all I'm talking about is prayer, you want to begin to interrelate how meditation applies to that scenario, right? So whenever you hear about meditation, you want to do the same thing with prayer. You want to begin to interrelate how prayer comes into play when speaking about meditation. And the reason that you want to do this is because the two go hand in hand. We're often taught that you just pray. But once again, we tend to forget that us human beings have the tendency to make God and to make life about what we perceive. Just us, like in our individual bodies. We only think our way is the right way, or we think we have access to all the information, or only our way is the way that is possible to do. So if someone gets in an argument with us, well, our side is correct, right? Because we're the only ones with access to the information. So this other person has to be wrong, right? But what people forget is that you cannot ask without receiving, right? And you cannot give without being given to. So that is why prayer and meditation go hand in hand. Prayer is asking, meditation is receiving. And if you are sending the vibe out, you must receive it back in some way. And I do not just mean in a physical sense. I am also speaking on a very spiritual level. And once again, people that are in vision class tend to think that this class is all about the manifestation of the vision. And while it is all about the manifestation of the vision, on an even deeper level, we need to find ourselves, right? We need to know who we are. We need to be affirmed in who we are. And we need to demand that we are valuable in this universe. And the only way to demand it is through achieving our visions, right? And we'll learn about that a little bit with Julia Cameron today, but we will not go into too much depth with Julia Cameron today, because I really want to focus on prayer and meditation without taking up all of the entire hour. Okay, so with that being said, let us begin lecture. As you're going throughout vision class, you will notice that you start feeling certain feelings at certain times, right? You may get sudden surges of energy and of passion, and then all of a sudden you get a sudden surge of sadness and depression. And it just seems like, well, why is this happening right now when everything was going well? Whenever you're going through any transformative process where you're taking an old version of yourself and making it new again, any type of rebirthing process, you'll have what I like to call layers of litany. Layers of litany essentially are experiences that are bound to happen in a certain order as you begin to emerge from your cocoon. Now, in The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron has nicely detailed for us in each week things that we may be feeling, right? Things that we may start to notice, right? The urge to purge was one of those things. We also noticed that anger was one of those things. And now coming upon week 8, we noticed that we might be losing a little bit of our focus. Amen. I know that that happened to me. The way that I knew that that happened to me was because in every morning page, I write the same affirmation every day. I write that I am efficient, productive, and accomplished. I write that every day religiously. And when I go to do my intention book, I write that as well. So why, when I'm writing my intention book last week, did I start to write that I wanted to be focused? It was just something that came into my heart, and I wrote it down, and I realized it was something I needed. And I arrive upon week 8, and uncannily, I look at week 8's topic, and of course, it has to do with focus, strength, right? Why are we talking about losing strength or not having strength as an artist? Remember that the term artist is the term that Julia Cameron uses. Remember that I also use my own set of terms, and so does every other author, teacher, writer, scholar, whatever have you, right? So everyone has their own list of terms that they're going to use to speak about different experiences. Julia Cameron uses the term artist. Right now, you guys can use the term higher self or inner self or best self or whatever you want to use. All of these terms, for me, in all intents and purposes, are synonymous. So your artist self, guys, you have to remember, this is a part of you that has not been nurtured, has not been taught to be nurtured. It is not of the ego. It is truly of God. And this self, okay, this self that is closest to God, doesn't have a lot of physical support. This is why you will notice that poisonous playmates fall by the wayside. If you have not gotten rid of a poisonous playmate, you may notice that this week they start getting rid of themselves. Whether or not you are, people are always worried, how am I going to get rid of this person? How am I not going to? What happens is people get rid of themselves. And the reason that they get rid of themselves is because it's part of this layer of litany. I can't even talk. It is part of these layers of litany that people begin to expunge themselves from your life. I cannot talk. It is through these layers of litany that people begin to expunge themselves from your life, right? And why is this happening? Because this is just part of the process. This is all that Artist Way is doing. It's just saying to emerge your higher self, you're going to have to go through these layers of litany. You're going to have to go through these processes in a certain order usually. And this week, typically, people are going to start experiencing this loss of focus or this loss of this sense of strength. Why? Because you've got no poisonous playmates right now. Right? That's one reason. What's another reason? You've spent more alone time with yourself than you've ever spent. This is so new to you. And although Vision Class is designed to give you a level of support, we are all going through this right now. And even had Vision Class been there for 50 years, there will still be so many souls going through, right, as a graduating class or as a, right, we're going through as this sort of class that we would do in high school where we graduate at the end. You're going through growth. So it's never going to just be cut and dried, I have support system, boom, we're all going to go through this. So this week we're going to feel that we've lost a sense of strength. And how do we recover that? Well, first of all, it's very important. In the syllabus, I always talk about reporting your findings, right? I always talk about checking in. And I'm not perfect at my check-ins, but I certainly try to write at least every day on there, if not every other day. I try to at least have one post because it shows that I'm engaged, it shows that I'm active, it shows that I'm accountable, and it shows that I'm responsible. And that's part of what we're talking about this week, having responsibility for your actions. You see, when you decide to commit to a dream, when you commit to it, when you say this is going to happen, I don't know that everyone knows what that feels like to say that this will happen, right? It's called being focused, right? Think about it. Think about it. There are people on like The Biggest Loser or I can't even think, Extreme Makeover Weight Loss Edition who have goals to reach. Now, they don't lose 100 pounds in one day. They've got to go intermittently, right? Your goal is 30 pounds by 30 days or whatever their goals are, right? And sometimes embedded within those goals, their trainers will have other lofty goals as mini sort of checkpoints, right? So even though you may have lost 30 pounds, at about 50 pounds in, they may want you to run a 5K marathon. This happens. This happens on these shows. Why does that happen? Because sometimes you have to still have your eyes set on something. You may not even have your eyes set on 100 pounds. You might be so tired and winded, right? All you could think about is a meal in front of you. You might not even be able to think about 20, meals from now or 3 million meals from now when you're eating vegan. Right? That's too far ahead for you. So perhaps right now you fixate on the low carb meal that you have in front of you, right? But every now and again, they'll have a goal that you sort of set your sights on for focal reasons, right? You have to be fixated on something or else nothing will get done. So these people are fixating on these goals, and these are things that they thought they'd never do before. But once they commit to the dream of losing weight, then it becomes an internal struggle, right? If you're going to quit the program, your trainers often have to constantly remind you, but a lot of times we don't have a trainer. Like I said, we're without that support, which is why our artist self right now is struggling to maintain focus. We don't have a trainer, right? Now, you know that I'm your personal trainer for this class, right? I am your mentor for this class. So if you're feeling like you're Raggedy Ann right now, obviously you email me and we talk, but this is why you keep going. Because if not you, no one will accomplish your dream for you. No one has your dream at interest besides you, right? Your poisonous playmates don't have it in interest. Your fellow classmates are fixated on themselves. I care about it, but there's nothing I could do. Only you are responsible. So whenever you're feeling this begrudging feeling and I just don't feel like doing morning pages today and you feel like self-pity and pity party, that's normal. That's week 8. However, you begin to focus on what can you do. And the way that you do this is through the intention book, because of course the intention book allows you to piecemeal your dream based on your control. We are used to living our lives in such a zombie-like state, such a trance-like state, where we're not choosing our reality anymore. That when we get to a place where we can choose our reality, it makes you tired. You're not used to it, right? And we also don't have the type of reinforcement and support system that we're used to having in the old life. Right? Because people are willing to support you when you're doing the norm, right? People are used to supporting you when, you're going to school. How great. I'm so excited for you. Instead of, oh, you're starting a production company. Let me know how that goes. And they go drink their juice. So, right? We don't have that. We have that in vision class, but we're all growing together. So we all together are a little bit in a weakened state right now, trying to embody the new self. So part of what has to happen now, and part of what has to become a habit and a practice now, is instead of asking why me, asking how, right? How can I do this? As you all know, and I didn't go into great detail with this, like I said, it's very difficult for me to spend so much time on certain topics, even though they're the topics of that particular week. But if you remember, we talked about the intention book in week 3. What the intention book is, as a reminder, it's similar to a to-do list. Now, I write affirmations before I do a daily entry into my intention book, but the intention book's purpose is, and you'll see this when you read The Artist's Way. So if you've read week 8, I have no better way to explain to you how to use the intention book than week 8 of The Artist's Way. Trust me on that. So the intention book's purpose is to take your grand vision, whatever it is or whatever they are, and it's to begin to allow yourself to delegate to yourself the cans, not the cannots. Right? I said this at the very beginning of vision class. I don't want to hear what you cannot do. I want to hear what you can do. So what you do with your intention book is hopefully every single day, hey, August 1st, 2013, you write at the top, I write at the top intentions, just so I know that these are my intentions. And I'll write a little affirmation. I am efficient, productive, accomplished, and focused. I write that at the top of every, and I modify my affirmation if I find that I want to even be, like I added focus last week. I wasn't focused before. So I said focus because we're in week 8 of survival. Focus became something new that I needed and I didn't realize I needed. And I hadn't even read week 8 yet. But I was like, ooh, I need to be focused. And then week 8 comes and shows absolutely that is exactly what needs to happen during week 8. Again, everything that happens in The Artist's Way, if you're doing the work, it's going to start coinciding with what's already happening inside of you. You won't even get the chance to get the words out before you start reading them. And you're like, oh, that's how I'm feeling. Interesting. So what the intention book does is it mitigates this large, huge conglomerate of stuff that could happen, and it allows it to be manageable, right? So you write what you can do towards that goal each day. Now I write everything from make a doctor's appointment to buy new lipstick. I mean, whatever it is, it can be any intention that you want. But the key is, if it has something to do with your dream, every day you need to be writing in that intention book and you need to ask yourself, what can I do, right? We're getting so fixated on the big finale of things, right? Oh, well, I want to be a doctor, but I don't know if I'm going to get into medical school, or I don't know how I'm going to do at the MCAT, or what if they don't pick me, or what if I don't have enough money? We're fixated on the end game And life is not about the end game all the time. Life is about the tiny steps you take in the moment. It really and truly is. There is very rarely a big adjustment that people have to make. Certainly things do happen like Hurricane Sandy, where people are displaced from their homes, where they have to make big changes quickly. But those are very rare cases, right? This is not everybody every day all the time. Most people, most of their lives, have to move through small changes in order to see the big change. It requires responsibility to say that you have a dream. It requires responsibility. You have to do something constantly. As I said in week 6, it's work. It's always work. So what has to happen, not only are you cutting up everything into small pieces, but you're always doing, right? And it's not in, I love what she said. She said it's not in what's been done, all right? But it's in the doing, right? Which sounds like what? It sounds like Eckhart Tolle speaking about being versus wanting and having, right? Because people are often talking about, hey, I wrote a book. But what sounds more exciting? I wrote a book or I'm writing a book, right? It's the action that creates excitement. Granted, I wrote a book is a great accomplishment, but people tend to care less when you're not in the process of something. They want to hear, I've written a book and I'm writing a screenplay right now. Wow. I mean, isn't that more exciting than I wrote a book, I wrote a screenplay? Great, what are you doing now? So everything is about the now, everything is about the being. And of course, when I use the word doing in this particular scenario, I am referring to being, which is confusing. And speaking of which, I have to make an assertion here. So that being said, I want to mention one more thing about this whole concept of strength right now, week 8. This is my own concept, and it's called claiming. And this is what I mean by that. A lot of times we're too reticent to claim that which is already ours. In fact, what I really like about the Isaiah effect that we're getting ready to talk about is we human beings don't even realize that he said it, and I love it. Creation is already complete, right? Actually, let me go to that right now. Are you ready? I'm going to be reading a lot to you today. I'm like your little children. Creation is already complete. This comes from the Isaiah Effect, page 167. If you want to read along, pause the video, whatever you need to do. Turn to scripture. Just kidding. Creation is already complete. Our prayer becomes a prayer of thanks for the opportunity to choose which creation we experience. Through our thanks, we honor all possibilities and bring the ones we choose into this world. What does that mean? What we forget, what I forget, what I don't even think about. Everything that's happening right now was already done. I didn't do anything, right? All I did was I brought things into focus. We're talking about focus this week, right? I just brought a certain reality into focus. Well, what do you mean, Shira? If you have a camera, right? The camera is only getting a piece of the reality. Oh, I'm about to preach. I am about to preach. Cameras, right? The camera's just taking this part of the room. But you guys know intuitively, right? There's more room. I mean, if I pan the camera back, it ain't like they're gonna be like, holes on the side of me and I'm sitting on a set. You know I'm in an actual room, hopefully, right? Okay, you can assume that there's a room. That in fact, behind the camera is something, right? There's something, there's lights, there's a TV back there, all types of stuff, right? And then you think to yourself, well, think about that in terms of reality, right? The camera is choosing to record this aspect of the room, yet the camera could very well film over there. Same room, same time, okay? Same reality existing at the same time, just a different focus, just a different choice. Okay, that's quantum physics. So what does that mean, Shira? That means this is an analogy, okay? This is an analogy. So there are reasons and there are conscious choices why I chose to focus the camera here, all right? Just like in your life, you consciously choose to live your dreams. You could also unconsciously choose to live someone else's dreams, right? You could work at a corporation. That's not your dream, right? You're not probably making enough money there, or you're probably not fulfilled there. So that's someone else's dreams that you're fulfilling, not your own. Think about it. You go to work 9 to 5, you punch a clock, and that's not, I mean, you're not making, they're making the rules. You're not making them. So this is not your dream. This is someone else's dream. Okay? And if it's your dream to go work for somebody, make sure that that's really your dream, because most dreams encompass people feeling fulfilled. And as long as you feel fulfilled in what you're doing, then great. But right? Ultimately, you want to be the creator of your destiny. So in quantum physics, you fixate on a certain reality, right? Right. Okay. So the reality that I'm choosing to fixate on right now is the new reality where I'm a ballroom dancer, where I'm competing in ballroom dancing, where even I make better eating decisions, when I make better financial decisions, where I make better decisions about how am I going to acquire my equipment for my production company, right? Right. All right. How do I save money? How do I make sure that I live in the reality of where I really want the camera to be focused on, right? With the Empire State Building behind me, that type of a thing, right? So what that all boils down to is called claiming. Now, what is claiming? A lot of times people are reticent to put a stamp on what they believe in because they're afraid it won't be backed, or they're afraid it won't be supported, which it usually is not, right? And usually if everybody around you does not buy into the dream that you have for yourself, it is that much harder because you are constantly having to stick up for it or hide it, right? Until it blossoms, and then you can talk about it. Until then, your success is only in your head, right? Because nobody else believes you or agrees with you. Just let's be real. Like, it's just hard to live in a society where other people are saying that your dream is worthless. It's just hard, okay? So that being said, a lot of times people don't claim something because they're waiting for someone else to tell them that that's okay before they agree to it. Example. I realized something when a viewer wrote to me. Now, I have claimed many things on this channel. I have claimed that I'm a mathematician. I have claimed that I'm a scholar. I have claimed that I was a makeup artist. I have claimed that I am a dancer. I have also claimed that I'm a producer. Now, I've claimed that I'm a comedian. At one point, I had claimed that I was a producer, and a viewer came and wrote to me, but wait, I thought that you said you were a blah, 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 whatever it was, comedian, something. And I said to myself, there's something deeper in what they're asking me that they don't even know they're probably asking me that I need to address. I'm gonna address it here. You can be whatever you claim yourself to be. You don't have to be one version of anything. You don't have to fit one mold of anything. You don't have to be one aspect of anything. You can become multiple things. Hell, I'm using words that were pre-chosen for what my career choices are, but nonetheless, I still remain those things, right? So I could not use the word producer if I chose to not use that word, right? I could say I'm a filmmaker. I could also be a producer, but the words have very little meaning, right? We're learning this all this week. We've learned this before about etymology. Words have very little meaning. People assign meaning to words and are extremely offended by words. But the only way to be offended by a word is if it holds a true resonance. And the only way to know that is to go to the etymology of the word. Seriously. Other than that, there can be no real offense taken with words that have no real meaning, right? Tay Queen even broke down the word F-U-C-K to me before, and when I figured out when she told me what that was, I laughed. It has no meaning. It means fornicating under the consent of the king. That's what it really means. So if you're noticing your kids saying a bad word, well, no, society's attached a bad meaning to that word, but it really doesn't mean that. It really means fornicating under the consent of the king. So if it, I mean, seriously, right? So if you know that, then using the word doesn't carry the same weight. Granted, we know society has stigmatized that word, but if you know that it doesn't mean what you thought it meant, then it doesn't mean that. I mean, it just doesn't. It's all in your head what it means now. And it having the conscious knowledge that it doesn't mean what you thought it meant almost makes you a liar to use it in a different way. It does. If you're consciously aware of it, then you're living a lie because you know that it doesn't mean what you think it means, yet you choose not to use it. Then you're admitting to yourself that you'd like to live in a way that is the antithesis of reality, because in reality, it doesn't mean what you thought. Okay, whatever. The point is that using words to claim your reality is a very powerful thing. When I claimed that I was a ballroom dancer was the moment that I became a real ballroom dancer. What do you mean by that, Shira? What I realized when that student asked me, or when that person asked me the question of, I thought you were something else, I realized, well, I'm many things, but one does not exclude mutually the other, right? So I cannot, or mutually exclude, one term does not mutually exclude another term. So if I'm a producer, can I not also be a mother? Sure, I can be whatever I'm claiming. And that's what I want you to do. You have to claim it. You cannot be afraid to claim it before someone else claims it for you. Amen. I know people that won't say that they're an actress because no one has told them they're an actress, right? And by the basic concept of what we know an actress to be, right? This is a person who what? Acts in movies or acts on a play, right? If I say I'm an actress, you expect to see a resume. What have you done? But that's not how claiming works. Claiming is not about what you've done. Claiming is about what you say you are, right? Because you're the only one to give yourself whatever title you give yourself, so give yourself the title. If you want to give yourself a title that other people already know what it means, that's fine. And if you want to give yourself a title that has never been created before, that's fine too. I say I'm a holistic makeover artist. That's also something I've claimed. What does that mean? Well, it means what I say it means, right? And why do you say that, Shira? Why do you say that claiming is so important? Because without claiming, then something is not yours. You have to claim it first. Because if I waited around until the Academy told me I was a good actress, then I wouldn't be a good actress, right? I don't need to let other people tell me what I am in order for me to become that, because now I'm what they told me I am. I am not who I am. I am what society tells me I am, right? People so often will try to say this person's a performer, this person's a great performer, and because everyone agrees, then that person becomes a great performer. But what if the great performer in their heart always was a great performer? Well, I've always been a great performer. You just finally agreed with me, right? So claiming is the idea that you are who you say you are. And you have to say that you're something. You have to claim something in order to then become it. Right? You cannot embody something. And I wondered, what took me so long to be a ballroom dancer? And I realized I wasn't claiming it. I had not claimed it. The moment that I claimed it, the day I claimed it, I became one. Literally, I claimed it when I went in the audition. And that day, now I have people agreeing, yeah, you are a ballroom dancer. Because now I've got the piece of paper that says I work there. Right? But without that piece of paper, could I have claimed it? Of course I should have claimed it. I should claim it until someone agrees with me or never agrees with me. But by claiming it, then you begin to be grounded in it, and automatically you start to attract on your own level and on the universal level, you begin to attract events and situations that now affirm what you've already claimed. So the idea this week, y'all, is if you've taken your dream, right, and nobody can tell you any different, and you've already embarked upon it, and you've already become responsible for your dream, guess what? Now is the time to claim it. I am that. Don't say, I'm going to get my nursing degree. I am a nurse. Right? Put it to you this way. If I go around carrying a scalpel, can't even talk. If I go around carrying a scalpel, and I go around carrying a stethoscope, and I go around with a white lab coat on, and every time someone gets injured, I give them an x-ray and I wrap their leg and I put a cast on it, right? If I do that, what am I? I'm probably a doctor, right? Now what if I walked around calling myself a wild manigalote? What if that was what I claimed? I am a wild manigalote. Yes, but you just healed my cancer. I am a wild manigalote. Yes, but you just cured my diabetes. I am a wild manigalote. So the word didn't matter. Are you still doing the work of a doctor? Yes. Why does the word need to match what everyone else thinks it needs to be? It doesn't, right? Hell, if a wild manigalote went around curing my cancer, I'll call you a piece of poop for all I care. As long as you're curing my cancer, I'm cool. Why does it need to, you understand? Claim your reality. Just claim it. Now, before we talk about prayer, we got to talk about a little bit of history because that's where we're going to go with it. Okay, and also this is the time where you want to start interrelating. So remember, if you hear me talk about prayer, start thinking about meditation. Even though I'm talking about prayer, start relating them back to one another. What we forget, or what we don't even know, or what we forgot to realize, or whatever you want to call it, right, is that there are such Things that are Dead Sea Scrolls non-Hammadi library that were found, that were hidden and lost 17 centuries ago, right? We know that. So because we know that information, that knowledge was lost, that knowledge was shuffled, lost in the shuffle somewhere, we forget what implications that has on us as a Western society. Well, guess what? We become consumed with things, right? Tay Queen's going to talk about this with meditation, but we get consumed with our physical reality because we've lost the aspect of ourselves that is quite spiritual. Why? In a quest for probably capitalist society, but beyond that, in a quest for a society that is modernized, all right, or that is progressive in certain areas, or that is condensed or consolidated or made to be expeditious. In this type of society, or a marketing consumer society, right, consumer-based an economy, if you will, economy, which, by the way, again, you guys want to watch this documentary, I Am, if you really can. But in this documentary, again, you're going to see this theme constantly, especially as you guys go through class, and now when you start going off into other endeavors, you're going to start seeing all of these themes. But this idea that the economy is mental, right? It's a construct. It's not real. You can't, this is my economy. I mean, it makes no sense, right? It's a concept that someone came up with in order to create a society that was fixated on material things. Let's just be real. So in that society, we forget that we don't have access directly to things that truly matter, that are not transient, that are sustainable, which is your spirit, right? We don't fixate on how to make your spirit whole and clean. We're so fixated on things and attachment and ego. We are. That being said, how do we know what it is to become of our spirit? How do we do that? Well, what I think is beast about Gregg Braden is he plays no games. He's like, look, somebody somewhere in this world needs to have the esoteric knowledge, right? Just so happens that this knowledge resides in Tibet. Well, why Tibet? It's not just Tibet, but it's specifically in Tibet for one reason. Up until 1980, literally, Tibet had not been modernized by normative standards. There was very little outside interaction. Like, no one came in the Tibetan plateau, no one infiltrated. No one came in and was like, y'all gonna need some computers and some iPhones. Let's get it cracking. I mean, nobody came in there and did that. So they were chilling with the knowledge that they had since the 4th century when books was being removed, okay, from our Western culture. They had that knowledge. They had it in their traditions. They had it in the way that they lived their lives. They had it in their cultural practice. I mean, it was embedded with everything within them. So Gregg Braden was like, cool, if there's somebody I need to holla at, it would be you guys, because obviously you don't have all of that distraction embedded with 17 centuries of buildup. You don't have all of that ego built up, more than likely. Let's just face it, with so many layers and so much constant evolution of thought, right? I mean, let's be real. You don't think that a lot of common sense got lost in the shuffle of slavery? Amen. Okay, this country, let's talk about economy for 2 seconds. This country was built off of slavery and seen. I mean, the whole entire reason that you and I are here, and I don't care if you're white or black, or whatever you are. The whole entire reason that anyone's here is because someone decided to come over from England and be like, look, this country is going to speak English. Done. All right? I mean, let's be real. We always forget things and we love to conveniently just think our reality is a certain way. Let's just get back to the history. You got to know the history, right? Because you can't take for granted why you are where you are. I speak English because of that. Or otherwise, I would love it if I was speaking some Farsi or something. You understand? Or anything. Arabic, I mean, give me a language, okay? But it's English. So why is it English? I could speak Igbo, I could speak a lot of languages, okay? But I happen to speak English. All right, well, why is it? Okay, because, oh, my bad, somebody was a slave back in the day. Okay, let's just remember that. Why do you want to remember that? You want to remember that because for those very same reasons, there are people in this world, there are peoples who have preserved ancient traditions that are actually not at all foreign to the texts that we call the Bible. Not at all foreign. The only difference is that we don't know that because we think it's something else because we forgot. We lost 42 texts. 41 texts, whatever, give or take a text. Doesn't matter. Okay, the point is, so Gregg Braden is beast because he's like, look, I'm going to go to all these places in the world where people are still preserving the most original meanings of these texts without translation, without all this cloudiness, without all this ego, and let me go holla at them. What are they doing? What are they thinking? What are they talking about? And when he got there, he specifically wanted to ask this gentleman named the Abbot in the plateau of Tibet, and you guys need to read this book so you can really see what, I mean, he had to travel for 2 weeks up mountains to adjust to all of the, what do they call it, air pressure? He had to take 2 weeks just to make one trip just because that's how, your lungs will collapse. So when he finally got up there, and you guys need to read it because it's very detailed, he gets up there and he really asked the guy, like, look, how do you pray? Right? How do you pray? And I don't just mean that superficially. Literally tell me, why are we praying? What are we doing? What are we trying to achieve? Okay? And after this whole long translation thing, because nobody has words that match in English, the bastardized language, people had to really figure out his intention because they couldn't go by etymology. They had to go by the intention. All right? He finally realized prayer is feeling. The whole point of prayer is to achieve a feeling, okay? What is feeling? Feeling is thought, emotion, and body, okay? Prayer is thought, emotion, and body. What are you saying, Shira? When I talked about prayer was your physical aspect of channeling God, okay, meditation is your spiritual aspect. You go in meditation through the space that is consciousness, right? That's a space. And a lot of times, guys, you probably won't know this without going to outside sources, because even since these books have been written, a proliferating amount of knowledge has started, an abundant amount of knowledge has started coming out of this school of thought of the esoteric past that we forgot about or didn't know existed. And they're finding scientific evidence, guys. And actually below this video, I'm going to have links to videos that you should just click on if you have time and see the scientific evidence. These are not lies. People always want to see evidence in our physical world that things exist, right? Outside of our consciousness, outside of our mind. These things exist. There are real things that exist in the so-called space that you think is space around you. Space is where things happen, right? It's not, look, we're always wondering how our reality shift and manifest and something new happens and, oh, how did, Oprah Winfrey Network contact me? What's that? That happened in that space, which you achieve through meditation. So prayer is your physical aspect, right? You are utilizing your thought, your emotions, and your body to create a feeling which is prayer. So instead of, because here's the deal, this is what people do. Dear God, thank you for my food. I hope that you give food to all the people in the world. Amen. And that's really cute and everything. But manifesting the food for all the people in the world, amen, consists of the feeling, right? What do you mean by this, Shira? It consists of the feeling. Prayer is nothing but words without that feeling. And a lot of us don't know that, right? I'm not saying that this is like common practice knowledge, right? This is not commonplace knowledge. Now, I'm not saying this is commonplace knowledge, right? That's why these books were lost. That's why this information is being found. The idea is when you pray, you don't want to pray words. You want to pray feeling. And what do you mean by that? So the elements of prayer, I'm sorry, I said thoughts, emotion, and body. It's thoughts, feeling, and body, right? So what is feeling? Feeling, all right, is the idea that you actually become the prayer, right? I'll explain that in a second. And then body. Obviously, your body is the channel through which you do this, okay? So you do this with your body, but actually you want your real, actual body to emulate the feeling of what you want to achieve. Example, each time we pray individually, we must feel our prayer. When we pray, we feel on behalf of all beings everywhere. We are all connected. We are all expressions of one life. No matter where we are, our prayers are heard by all. We are the same one. Okay, what does that mean? Everybody that exists in this world, we could all pray at the same time, right? And everybody existing in this world, if everybody just took care of themselves individually and literally embodied the feeling of what they wanted to manifest, I will explain this momentarily, but if everybody embodied the feeling of what they hoped to manifest, then the manifestation would be greater in magnitude because everybody is already connected. Imagine the amplification of that one individual prayer, right? So you by yourself can do some damage, but imagine everybody else, right? Here's how we live the intention of prayer. There's a story in the Isaiah Effect, which I love, and there is a gentleman who, a Native American gentleman who was with Gregg Braden. Again, Greg is beast because he travels the world finding people like, look, you gonna tell me what y'all be doing because I know you know because you don't care nothing about those moccasins on your feet, honey. I want to know I want to know what you got because you ain't worried about your Lexus. So let's see what kind of knowledge you have. So they had a drought where this Native American gentleman was from, and during the time of this drought, they wanted to have rain. I mean, obviously, they was hungry. So the Native American gentleman went into, the forest and whatnot, and he went to the special area where they prayed, and he sat there and he kind of just like was there, and then he left. And then Gregg Braden goes, excuse me, I thought we went over there so you could pray for rain. And he said, I didn't say I was going to pray for rain. If I prayed for rain, rain would have never come. I prayed rain. Ooh, ooh. When I heard that, I said, oh man, we're going to get it crunk. Okay, now when he said, I'm going to pray rain, did anyone get that, by the way? Because it took me a second. I was like, well, it's the same thing, ain't it? But then I had that moment where I threw the book down. I had that moment. I was like, oh, snap, I get it now, right? So what's the difference between, because I had to ask myself, like it took me a pause. I was like, what's the difference between praying for something and praying something? All right, so the little preposition for, what does that mean? It's a preposition. It comes before pose, P-O-S, the position of something, okay? So it is an antecedent word. It's a word that occurs as a filler, right? As a precursor to another word. It's a filler word. What does that mean, Shira? That means if you're praying for rain, you're not praying for the rain. You're more praying for the for. Yeah, right. Take that preposition out of there. I'm going to pray rain. Well, what does that mean? That means instead of sitting up here asking for rain, which is what we typically do when we pray and we don't even realize that we're praying for somebody, let's pray somebody. Okay, let's take the preposition out, and what does that mean? That means instead of thinking about rain, let me know what rain is, right? With my body. I am feeling the pelting of the rain on my skin. I'm feeling what type of rain I want. I'm getting specific. I'm smelling it. You know that smell right before rain comes? It's about to rain. You know the certain breeze that comes right past your face when the rain's about to come? You know how the sky looks? That's praying rain. Becoming that moment when the rain is there. You know, I mean, this isn't even just but it is part of your thoughts, right? I was going to say this is not just a thought, but this is part of your thoughts. It is something you have to think about, but you also use the feeling of the rain, okay, on your body to create the prayer. That's praying rain, right? So if I want to pray, look, I have my own production studio. Well then, darn it, when I pray, I'm going to sit there and instead of asking God for these things, I don't ask for them anymore. Instead, I want to emulate what it means when they are already there, right? So praying a production studio is the same as me sitting right here in front of these lights and just imagining more of them, or perhaps imagining myself in the actual location. And I don't just mean imagining. I mean, you want to go so deep into your mind's eye that you actually start feeling these things that are not there. Because did you know that the brain does not know the difference between an actual thought and it actually happening? The brain does. Look, I'm telling you guys to go look up the science behind this because you will be dumbfounded that this really exists. Understand that on an even more fundamental level, there is an existence of thought in your mind that creates reality because the mind does not distinguish it as a non-reality. The mind thinks that that thought is really real, right? It's really happening.
So if you pray in that way, right? Tonight, when you go, oh my goodness, it makes it so exciting to me, like, to pray now. I'm like, yes, let me go pray. And then when I'm doing my morning pages, I'm praying. Guess what I'm also doing? I'm meditating. Why are you doing both? Because in one part of my brain, I have no thought, and then there is a part of my brain that jumps in with thought, right? But the thought that I'm having now becomes invigorated with feeling. It's just what happens. That's why the morning pages are awesome, right? You also are embodying, you embody prayer, guys. Prayer is something you do. Look, the Essenes, they did it all day long, right? If you want to pray hair, I'm not going to say for anymore. I'm very conscious of this now. I'm not going to mess it up. If you want to pray hair, right? That's when you take the hair you already have, honey, and while you're in the shower, you are washing it, right? And you are feeling its length in your fingers. I don't care if it's not the length you want it to be. You're feeling the length in your fingers. And you're not asking for more hair. You are taking the hair you have, you are using your mind's eye, your thought, to emulate whatever that hair will feel like when it's reached its point that you have in your visions, right? In your consciousness, and it will manifest. Why? Because you're treating it as if it already exists. And it does, because creation is already complete. So it already exists in some form, in another reality out there, right? It's the same analogy as having the camera fixated on another aspect of the room that very well is there, right? There is a window there. Y'all can't see it, but it's there. It doesn't mean that it's not there just because the camera's not focused on it, but it does exist. And that's all you're doing. You're saying, I'm choosing to focus the camera lens on a wider angle so that my reality now encompasses the window. That's it, right? I could take this camera and I could very well showcase me on the couch and the window if I wanted to get that snapshot. But it's the idea that I'm consciously controlling where the lens is going that makes the difference. And that's what you're doing with prayer, because now you're conscious of what prayer is. So now you do it, right? And Greg Braden talks about something called the soup of creation. Now, without going into this analogy, the point is he's explaining that prayer is the catalyst that nudges your chosen future into action. The prayer does it. In fact, remember when he and his folks were on that caravan going to Egypt? They were praying Egypt without even knowing it, because they felt it in their bodies. Look, I can bring this all the way back. They were thinking it in their minds, and in their bodies, they were already standing there in front of the pyramids, right? They knew what it felt like I said, to have that wind in their face and to smell the sand. I don't even know what it's like, so I couldn't even imagine it fully. I couldn't even pray it fully, right? But I could pray based off of what I see on television. I could. But of course, they were able to manifest it that much quicker, because not only was it not just the individual, like I said earlier, the individual does it, but then it's more magnified in the group, vision class. So they were not only magnifying what one of them was thinking, because they were all thinking it, naturally, they transcended time. They literally just overshot an entire 3 hours because it wasn't necessary in order to create that reality. Right? The prayer was all that was needed. Same thing happened in that prayer of 1998 when they changed reality that was already set in motion. They already focused so much on a new reality that a new reality manifested, and it was not seeming to go that way based on the probability of the events that were already set in motion, which was that that plane was going to drop that bomb. I mean, what is the likelihood of an attack being stopped mid-attack? Right? Woo! Okay, so that's prayer. So prayer, by doing prayer, what prayer becomes is a way for your reality to focus in the way that you want. Granted, it's for the greater good of all involved. So if everyone involved is on the same accord, of course, naturally, the probability shifts such that the reality that manifests for the greater good of the whole is the greater good of everyone. But still, we don't know what the greater good is for everyone. We don't have that snapshot. We just have a snapshot of the couch. We don't know, hey, maybe God needs to, work on some other aspect, and we might be sitting over here still like, well, why am I still in the same reality? Why haven't things changed? Not knowing that when you are praying an event, the event is manifesting as it should. So if I'm still manifesting the same reality, it's because it's part of that plan. Trust and believe. So you have to have that in your mind's eye. All right, so that being said, woo! We're speaking today. guys, what you want to do this week, now that I've talked about prayer, and now that you are getting ready to listen to Tay Queen, I want you to begin to do these things on a daily basis. Sure, this is really hard. I'm not asking you to take 10 hours with it. What about 10 minutes? Okay? What if you spent 10 minutes in the morning for prayer, 10 minutes at night for meditation, or vice versa? What if you just added 10 minutes to see what you're going to manifest? And don't even try to manifest like huge things. Manifest something that you're scared to believe in, but it's not going to hurt you to believe in. Example, let's say you need $50 because you want to buy a new pair of shoes, right? You don't know how to manifest $50. Well, I am asking you right now to pray $50, right? So with every fiber of your being, you're going to, maybe you don't need $50. Maybe you just need the shoes. So pray the shoes, right? Go to the store and wear them, right? Try them on a lot. Or when you're not in the store, when you're driving in your car, feel the shoes on your feet as you press the pedal, right? You're walking in your shoes, feel the cushion when you're walking down the street. I mean, you don't really have these shoes on your feet, but watch them manifest. Do that. Try it, right? So that being said, so this is what you're gonna practice so that when we do our vigil, when we do our little prayer meditation session, you already know how to use this technique. I don't have to tell it to you, okay? Although I will reiterate. Now, that being said, we're gonna bring Tay Queen on and talk about meditation. I am going to literally leave meditation up to Tay Queen to discuss. So you all will find techniques that she gives you, of course, following her part of the lecture, because she really is going to be giving a mini lecture right now. When you hear what she says, I want you to also explore if you are confused. Okay, because of course we're going to probably talk more about meditation as time goes on, just because that's what I do with all the topics. I don't just cover everything at once right up front. It's just too much information. But if you don't like the techniques that, for example, Tay has suggested, as she will tell you, creative visualization has meditation techniques. Some techniques I will offer to you that I've learned. You can imagine globes of light illuminating you could think of it as your chakra systems, or you could also not. You could also think of it as, again, what does the word matter anyway? You think of the light illuminating above your head, and you may for 10 seconds or so imagine, I don't know how many seconds, I'm not in time when I do meditation. But what meditation will do is it will take you to that state, just like you are doing in your sleep. It's going to take you into that sleeping state. And the reason that you're doing that is so that you can be an open channel for God. As Tay will tell you, when you're sleeping, you are an open channel for God. We're just interpreting messages differently. But in meditation, you're controlling it, you're guiding it, right? So you can also, while you're closing your eyes, and you can do this you can meditate in so many ways, guys. It's all about what works for you. She will tell you that. But when you're meditating when you're trying to take yourself under, sometimes it's very helpful to imagine with your eyes closed, to lay flat in a comfortable position, something that feels good for you. Sometimes I open the window and let a nice breeze in. I mean, I really like to engage that aspect of my sensory perception. And I will imagine lights illuminating my body little by little. So I'll imagine myself start to be covered in lights. And I don't do this like quickly. This takes time. Like first I imagine above my head, and then I imagine my head, and then I imagine my throat. But I kind of let the light kind of linger there as I'm imagining it until I get to my feet. It's also really important when you're meditating to ground yourself. So imagining a string coming out of you to God or to the ground is really helpful. Why do you want to be grounded? Who likes to be woken up in the middle of the night with fire alarms and buckets of ice water being thrown in their face? That's startling, right? Have y'all ever just woke up like, and you're like, right? You've woken up like that before? Good. You should try it sometime. That being said, if you imagine yourself being grounded by a string, it's often very helpful because it's very synonymous with being awakened out of your sleep in that sort of a state of shock, right? It just grounds you back to reality. And you also have to, the way that you submerge yourself into your meditation, you want to take yourself out in reverse, right? So if you're imagining lights going down, your body being illuminated by a light. And what I will probably do for our mass meditation is I will probably give you guided vocal imagery. So that way you'll hear me saying it, and that way you don't have to do the work of it inside of your mind's eye. But and that's a really good way too, guys, is to listen, to listen to meditations and see if you like them, and then just play them and close your eyes. And perhaps once it goes off, just have music playing, and then you'll already be in that trance, and you'll just be under, and you'll automatically start getting the messages that are meant for you from God. This is your way of listening, right? So if you are imagining lights coming down your body, then you want to finish your meditation. Once you're done meditating, you want to start imagining the lights going off, starting with your feet, coming all the way back up, and then you're awake, right? If you're counting backwards from 100, you want to count from 1 and go to 100. And once you go to 100, you're ready to wake up, right? This is the safe way of meditating. Another way is to imagine submerging yourself underwater. Another way is to imagine yourself walking downstairs, right? You want anything in your mind's eye to think of you going downward or under, or something that in your mind starts to work its way down, either down your body, or you're going downstairs, or you're going down. You want to think of it that way, because what your mind does is it translates that. It's very, very tricky, but it translates that to you going inward to yourself. Or you can think of going into something, right? Anything that's synonymous with going to your, to going under, or to submerging yourself, or whatever kind of imagery you get in your mind from that, you do it, you take your time with it. And I even like to breathe. I breathe about a couple of really deep breaths that Tay will show you about. I breathe a couple of deep breaths before I actually put myself under, because I like to think of the breath first, right? It calms me down. It makes me ready to go under in a calm way. So I'm not rushing like 100, 99, 98, 97, 96, 95. I don't want any frantic energy when I'm meditating. I want it to be 100, 99, 98. I want it to be just that calm and just that collected, so I can go under safely, right? And I know I'm using the word go under, and then people are scared, like, go under? Like, we about to die? No. Okay, that's just the words I'm using. All right, so here's Tay Queen.
Peace and blessings, it's Tay Queen, and I'm here to talk to you guys about meditation. Now, I am by no means a guru or expert on the subject, but I do have a bit of spiritual insight about meditation, how to utilize it. I would suggest that if you need further guidance or further insight, that you reference a video called Spirit Science. I think it's part 8 that has the meditation component to it, and it speaks about meditation. They also have references there, different books, different websites, different people that you can research and further understand this topic and the subject. But for all intents and purposes, I will make this pretty general, pretty brief, but just enough to get you a basic understanding of what meditation is. Now, let's start with what most people think of meditation as. When I was younger, I came from a very Christian background, a very Christian household, and especially in most structured, organized religions, they don't encourage you to meditate. There's a lot of misconceptions that it opens you up to different entities, that you can, become possessed or other things. I mean, there's a lot of folklore around meditation. Now, this folklore its origin might be based on the fact that if you have not done a lot of spiritual work with yourself, you might come into direct confrontation when you go into a meditative state with your inner fears, and they might manifest themselves as demonic entities or demonic-looking entities or hellish-like states. And that's only a reflection of the inner aspects of yourself. All that meditation is doing simply is tapping you back into your original being. It's tapping you directly into your true self. Now, this is very important because here in Vision class, our whole goal is to find our true purpose. Well, we can't find our true purpose or our life purpose without understanding who we truly are. Meditation is one of the best ways that we can get in contact with our inner self. And what it allows us to do, it allows us to bypass all of the clutter of different components or different perceptions of ourselves. It allows us to become still and allows us to connect with that inner divine understanding. So last week Shira said that prayer is speaking to God and meditation is listening. Any major religion will reference that God is within, and this is very true. I think people don't understand how to literally take that, but you can take that literal. God is within. The kingdom of heaven is within, the Bible says. So it is very imperative that we understand what is within. Okay? So the meditative state, or how to achieve meditation, no more so the meditative state. The meditative state is actually just you being, not doing, not thinking about doing, not doing about thinking, not anything that pertains to anything other than just being. Why is this so powerful? As the animal self, or the animal-like mammalian brain part of ourselves likes to do, pretty much. What it likes to do is do. And it likes to distract us, it likes to keep us engaged, it likes to keep us busy. The conscious mind is a very, it also represents an aspect of that thought process. Or what we would like to call our lower self. Our lower self likes to keep us engaged in physical or carnal activities, things that remind us that we're here, that we're human. It's a part of the ego. It's a part of our physical self understanding and creating its physical reality. So it's very imperative that it constantly be gratified in its existence. So when you get to void states of consciousness, which is the ultimate goal of meditation, it actually takes away the need or the want to physically be engaged in carnal activities such as eating, thinking, doing. Breathing's not really carnal, but it's part of it. Just anything you can think of doing. Pretty much, especially those things that pertain to survival, or those things that pertain to entertainment, or anything else. Those are the things that the animal self, or the lower self, cardinal self, likes to engage in. These things are typically distractions. These things, when not properly channeled, because everything in the universe has its place and has its balance, when not properly channeled, can actually distract us from living our life purpose. Because it can be harder to get in touch with that inner self when other impulses are distracting us from connecting with that part of who we are. So that is a bit about what meditation is supposed to do, the purpose of it, why it's important. Now, why is it important to be void? Again, like I said, the whole purpose of being void is for you to become in contact with the inner aspect of God, the inner divine entity within you. It expresses itself often through your subconscious behaviors, like subconscious things like sleep, dreaming. We experience vestiges and sporadic experiences that pertain to the inner divine aspect. Some people have visions. even breathing can be connected into that because it's not something that we're conscious of doing. So all these things actually help us to get back to the point of our divine or our inner self. And these are also things that we can utilize as techniques to focus on in order to get into meditative states of consciousness. Breathing is a very, 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 very huge technique that is utilized to bring you into a meditative state. Now, again, meditation has many benefits, has many lovely health benefits. It can actually lower blood pressure, can reduce stress, which you know stress is a killer. So it can actually extend your life by reducing stress. I mean, it has so many great different benefits physically, but the ultimate benefit is clarity. The ultimate benefit is the ability to be without distraction or without barrier. And what it actually does is it's a practice or a discipline of bringing yourself back into the real you constantly. Now, again, some of these techniques, in order to do so, you can utilize breathing and breath. Breathing techniques are there's like billions of them. There are some great systems such as Qigong out there. There are other different systems that can teach you how to breathe. One of the most simple breathing techniques, and I'll share this with you, is it's called a Buddha breath. I think that's what it was told to me as, Buddha breath. Well, simply this breath is breathing in through the nostrils and breathing out through the mouth. And you want to be able to hear it. Use a forceful breath outward. And in and out through the mouth. The different sounds that you make also pertain to different organ systems, can invoke different aspects of your internal self and bring those things back into balance and back into harmony as well. But again, I'm not an expert, so I don't know them off the top of my head, but I do know that these things exist. A simple Google search on Qigong will really, really help you out on that. There's many Qigong practices that are really, really great, and they all deal with breath and utilizing the science of breath to bring you back to a meditative, harmonious balance. Other techniques include clearing the mind techniques. You have visualization, creative visualization techniques. Of course, we read the book Creative Visualization. It's a great reference for any creative visualization techniques. One of the most basic creative visualization techniques in order to get into a meditative state is watching your ideas pass you, because it's going to be really hard to hit the conscious mind, because it's going to keep chatting to you. It's going to be like, did you leave the lights on? Did you go turn off the oven? Did you do this? Did you do that? What are we going to do tomorrow? What are we going to eat tomorrow? What are we going to think tomorrow? What are we going to breathe tomorrow? What are we going to... It's like, it's going to keep trying to distract you. And trust me, I'm a Gemini, so mine goes at like 60 billion miles per hour. It's really hard for me to concentrate on focusing. But I've actually gotten there. Very briefly, but I've gotten there. And I think I'm getting better at getting there. So the technique is to just watch your thoughts pass you by. Instead of engaging them, instead of going, damn, did I leave on my oven? Did I leave on the iron? Instead of like engaging it, just watch it. Watch an iron being on pass you by, or whatever your representation of the concept of what your thought is, pass you by. And just eventually you'll just keep watching them from an objective standpoint till they no longer engage you and make you want to engage them and start thinking about them. That's one way. That way doesn't really work for me very well. I'm definitely a breathing girl. I'm a breathing or counting girl because it gives me something to do. Counting is another great way. Numbers are powerful. They're actually very, very spiritually significant, and they hold a lot of meaning. Counting backwards is a really, really great way, to get into a meditative state. It's recommended to count backwards from 100. Some people go 150. I mean, it really depends on your level of how well do you know your conscious mind trying to get up in there and distract you. But counting backwards is a really, really great way to keep your mind focused on one thing and try to fulfill it and go into a meditative state. Mantras, sounds, and frequencies can also put you into meditative states of consciousness. I really feel like that's one of my favorite things. I'm an audio person. I love music. So meditation music, frequencies like solfeggio frequencies, you can look them up on YouTube. They're really great. They help to attune certain spiritual properties and your chakras. So it's really, really great to utilize during meditation. For me, even saying mantras, I'm a singer, I love to sing. So saying mantras, the simple mantra that most people know is Om. Om holds a resonance and a frequency with the creation resonance of the universe. So Om permeates throughout all things. Om is a really great one. There are many, many different mantras from many different cultures. I've utilized a lot of Buddhist mantras. I find them to be very comforting. I do like to utilize them. If you resonate with a certain religious frequency, you don't have to use these techniques. Again, use what makes you feel comfortable. If Buddhism's not your thing and you don't feel comfortable with Buddhism, don't use Buddhism. But doesn't mean that meditation isn't something that you should do. Even in the Bible, they reference a lot of things that are utilized through for meditational purposes. Even fasting, which is heavily referenced in the Bible, is a great way to get into a meditative state. So, utilizing incense, which is talked about in the Bible, to create a different frequency, engage your senses in very, very harmonious and very uplifting frequencies and different tastes, touch, feels, and smells. These things will heighten your awareness and bring you to a meditative state of consciousness. So those are a couple of techniques and a couple ways for you to get in touch with it. Again, so to review, breathing, frequencies, mantras, counting, and even new sensory experiences are great things to do to get you into a meditative state. Now, once you are there, what are you doing? Now, again, we don't want to push the stereotypes that, hey, you're gonna get possessed or you're being open. No, actually, remember what Shira said last week about the nothingness and the emptiness actually being the wholeness. She said it last week or she said it the week before that. Either way, she said it sometime. And what she was actually referencing was very powerful, because the void is the space that you want to get to, a space of clarity, of clear mind, of emptiness. Now, we're not talking about emptiness in the physical sense. We're talking about emptiness like she's speaking about when you go down to the atomic level and you see that there's space. See, space is the original essence. So therefore, it is what comprises you. You were originally just consciousness, just spirit. Okay? Before you were doing, before you were thinking, before you were talking, breathing, singing, dancing, doing whatever, you just were spirit. You were just consciousness. So returning to that level, returning to that origin, returning to that basic and that understanding of yourself allows you to now get in touch with the original intent in which you chose to manifest, or your creator chose to manifest you through, whichever way you choose to look at it. So that's really what meditation is about. It's about flexing or utilizing your spiritual muscle to bring you back to your original point, to bring you back to your original purpose, to bring you back to your original mind, your original clarity. And what it will actually begin to do is to elevate your awareness, your ability to manifest, your ability to understand consciousness, all of these different things. And so that's pretty much what meditation does. It's a really, really great tool. It brings you back into alignment with God. Really does. It really, really, really does. So it's a really, really great thing. Anybody who is interested in learning about it should really, really learn about it. Even if you're not, open your mind, learn about these things. I just got finished saying this to somebody very dear and near to me. I said that opening your mind doesn't mean that you change your personal viewpoint. It just means that you understand now where another viewpoint is coming from. So you can hold your own personal beliefs on the subject and still do research on it and find out more about it. It may change your perspective, it may not. But hey, information never hurt anybody. Well, it might have hurt some people, but getting more information and learning more information won't hurt you. Promise it won't. Alright, so those are the things that you can do to learn how to meditate more. Those are the techniques you can utilize, and that's pretty much what meditation is. Meditation, a direct line to the real you. That sounds so corny, but I don't really care. I feel like being corny. Too late. Alright. Peace, y'all. Much blessings. Don't forget to check me out every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We discuss these topics and so much more. We discuss a lot. We've actually discussed a lot of these topics. So it's really, really good that you guys go over to conversationswiththequeen.blogspot.com and get acquainted with the Conversations with the Queen family. Alright, everybody. Also, you can utilize gemstones to meditate. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, you really can. So, if you'd like to learn more about gemstones and gemstone meditations, you can visit facebook.com/Gemini Creations, and there will be much more information there as well on utilizing gemstones. Now, I could literally talk about this subject forever and a day, but I'm super tired and I am ready for bed, and I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. Maybe we could do an extended interview on this or something. Alright? And yeah, it's okay. Peace.
Let us take the time to thank Tay Queen for her infinite wisdom and to affirm the following. The efforts of Conversations with the Queen manifest a massive burgeoning of consciousness in its listeners. Ashe. All links mentioned in Tay Queen's lecture can be accessed from the description box below.
All right, everyone, I hope that you got a lot of valuable information about what Tay Queen said. She really had to condense a lot of knowledge in like 20 minutes. It's so impossible to do. But I just want to thank her for all of her knowledge and wisdom. The reason I want to thank her for her wisdom is because, sure, I'm privy to a lot of information, but I can never know everything. No one human being could ever know anything in its entirety. And the aspect of understanding that Tay brings to the table is, for me, insurmountable, and I think it will be insurmountable for you all. Also, the energy that she brings, the literal energy of her life force. This woman she lives and breathes what she's talking about. She's very instrumental to this class. She's a vegan, okay? Veganism is on an entirely, the Essenes were vegans. There's a reason why veganism does something for you. Right? She just told me about it the other day when I finally realized what was really happening with veganism. I almost blew my brain open because I was like, wow. Right? Plants directly photosynthesize light. Okay? Light, right? What did Jesus say? I am the light. Light literally is God, right? So literally you're eating God in the most pure way that you can. You can't go eat the sun, right? You can't go, let me go put this on my tongue. You know, you burn up in 2 seconds. But you evaporate before you even get there. But when you eat plant-based plant-based foods, you're directly internalizing God. I mean, she takes it to the next level. Okay, so we really want to thank her for her being there. And I will say to some of you, I don't know all of you personally, but sometimes the information she will give is so detailed and in depth, and in fact so over your head that you may have to rewind the tape. You may have to go research outside because it's just so difficult to masticate at that point. I mean, that information is just not even tangible. But it's not to say that it's inaccurate. It's our level of consciousness and understanding that must evolve to reach it. And trust me, as a person who's been on this journey and to hear some of the things that she's had to say, I take it as no small coincidence. The way that my life has changed has been infinitely and insurmountably changed because of wisdom that she's helped me to have. In fact, there was a time when I was a kid, and I'm just telling you guys this, I'm just giving you insight as to why she's the field expert that I have brought on for this class. But when I was a little girl, I used to know that there was information that was not accessible easily, right? I was just like, there's just something incomplete about this puzzle, about the way that life works, about how we are interconnected. I mean, there's just something off, right? Not knowing that the Dead Sea Scrolls were not going to be made available to me until I was like, 9 years old. Not knowing all of the, you know, the litany, all of the layers of litany, not knowing all of the information that I now know. But I knew it existed in some way because, like she said, you're going back to your source, you're going back to your true self that you were when you were born. You're going back to that. So at some point I knew that it existed. I didn't know how, and I was sad because I thought I would never know the answers. I thought I would always be living in reality, not being able to control it. But once I talked to Tay Queen, I realized that was a full circle moment for me because the more that I speak to her throughout my months and now years, going on a year that I've been talking to her, I've realized that my prayer had been answered. I prayed it, right? I prayed the knowledge, right? I prayed it. And now it's coming to me through her, which is allowing me to then branch out and see it elsewhere. And that's what experience I hope that you get from her, because that's what I've gotten from her. And I just want to thank her for adding so much to this class. And I want everybody, when we do those affirmations for each other, I want you to really feel them. That's your prayer for them, really, is what we're doing. So not only are we doing an affirmation, but we're combining. It's now a prayer, right? Because we're feeling it with our entire body when we're saying it. And no doubt we are manifesting on a different level, a reality for each other when we do that, because we're stronger as a group. So that said, practice your meditation, practice your prayer. Practice is what makes perfect. So the key is when you start to lose focus, or when you start to feel weak, right? You're losing your strength. When you start to feel that way, you have to remind yourself where you've come from and remind yourself to stay vigilant, stay focused, right? Practice is the key. You're not going to get strong without the practice. So that being said, thank you for watching. I'll see you next week. Peace and peace.